Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we'll get to that time. Thank you for coming to the board meeting 12/12/2022. It's December, we're missing a few people. One's on vacation, the other one's in Florida. Hey, wish I was in Florida. All right. Announcements, Clear Creek Conservancy. Dwayne's not here. Floyd Township Fire Department, no one here.
Yeah, we had.
Oh, sorry.
Jacob Hasham, we've had 43 runs through November, and we have our annual Santa Parade, as some of you've seen on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, it's on Saturday. We're rolling out of the firehouse at 4 p.m. Santa will be on the engine, making a lap clockwise around Heritage Drive
That's this Saturday?
this Saturday.
Great.
Did you say 143 runs
No, 43.
for the whole year?
In November only.
Okay, I was thinking, that is wrong.
No, November only, 43 runs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Neighborhood Watch, there's no report. HLCS, Rick Miller.
Nothing new to report.
Well, I'd like to, on behalf of all of the board members and the people that were at the dinner, that was quite a nice dinner, and thank you very much. We appreciate that. It was a nice way to start the holidays.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're here, I agree.
Helnack, no report. POA Security, Ken?
Disturbance calls 2, suspicious person 3, traffic stops 11, admin calls 1, animal complaint 2, lockouts 1, alarm 1, fraud 1, traffic accidents, property damage only 2, domestic violence 2, warrant service 2, overdose 4, road hazard 1, and 1 harassment call. That's it.
Thanks, Ken. Garden Club, I don't think there's anything for the Garden Club. Presentation of agenda, move forward. Everybody okay? Like to have a motion for accepting the board minutes for November 14th.
Motion to accept.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll second that. Motion to accept the operations meeting, the 28th of November.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Treasurer's report, Mr. A.J. Stafford.
It's me. Okay, accrued income for the month of November is $74,753.67. Total expenses for the month of November were $90,726.36, leaving a negative income balance of $16,152.69, which is very typical this time of year. Not very much coming in. Year-to-date accrued income, year-to-date is $1,612,753.28. Total expenses year-to-date are $1,605,345.96, leaving a net income year-to-date of $7,407.32. As of November 30th, our checking account balance was $421,830.10. just to put that in perspective, as of November 30th last year, our checking account balance is only at $406,626.66. And the total of our money market CDs, money market, all our investment accounts, 209,627, totals up to 631,457.67. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you. Committee reports. A&E, I have no report. Campground, no report. Cleanup, no report. Government Committee, Rick Olson.
Yeah, Rick Olson, excuse me, 51 Mill Springs. As I reported last month, the county is working on getting the plan together for next year for road improvements, which would include anything in Heritage Lake. They just completed what's called a PASER rating, Pavement Surface Evaluation Rating, to basically assess all of the county roads. I believe it's the paved county roads in the county. And I'm gonna try to get my hands on that so we can look at that data for Heritage Lake community and potentially put in our input for that. It's something that's required by NDOT for the county to get NDOT funding. So, and then the second item, I don't know if this is really government, but at one of the last commissioners meetings, they rolled out the Putnam County Health Department's new vaccine trailer. So if there's any interest in the community to get that, they're looking for places to pull it to. So, you know, if we could get it out here for a day if folks were interested in that. So that's really all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, but what kind of vaccines?
They did, they did flu shots, COVID shots. I think they even do things like shingles and things like that. So, and I don't know, I don't know beyond that. So, but I think there's some information on the internet.
Thanks, Rick.
Anything else?
Lake Committee, no report. Clean Water, no report. It's that time of year. Long-term planning, no report. Facilitation, there will be no report. Election Committee, there's no report. As you all know, there is no election this year. There's 4 openings and there's 4 people running. Manager's report, Ken?
All right, to kind of piggyback off of what you started out with, I'd like to begin by thanking Rick Miller and the Heritage Lake Community Service for a nice dinner and entertainment last week, for his appreciation and the need to dedicated to volunteerism in the community. I would also like to thank Anita Johnson and the Garden Club. They have purchased and planted an evergreen tree at the entrance out here at the clubhouse. Their wish is for this community to utilize this tree as a community Christmas tree for years to come. Anita, thank you and your Garden Club for this thoughtful gesture. Also a reminder, the gate at the dam will be closed around January 3rd to allow the process of capturing rain and snow to fill the lake back to pool level by spring. The Psalms Restaurant monthly contribution for the month of November, we received our base lease of $2,500. Food sales did not meet the level of profits to receive a percentage. Year to date, the POA has received $63,394 from the Psalms. The Santa box out front of the building will remain in place throughout this week and will be removed first thing Saturday morning, December 17th, to allow sufficient time for all letters to be answered and returned by mail just in time for Christmas. I'd like to thank Carrie Bolin and all your else for taking your time for several children to continue the belief of Santa's magical powers. Thank you very much. That's really cool. Finally, the office will be closed for the holidays beginning Wednesday, December 21st, and reopen Tuesday, January 3rd. Phone messages will be checked and periodically for any important messages and returned if needed. And finally, to all of you out there, Merry Christmas and a very safe and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Moving on to old business. Getting into old business A, 2023 lake rules. First thing before we go through the lake rules, I take a motion to accept or deny any of these lake rules with one vote so that we might have time to print them and get them out before next year. There's been a lot of discussion about these. This is going to have no reflection on what we decide tonight, but I'll take a motion for time's sake, that we eliminate the 2-vote rule and only have 1 vote.
Can we just add that to the motion if we're accepting or denying the lake rules? Instead of having 2 separate things?
Whatever you'd like. You know me, I'm real stickler on this stuff.
I think you can do them with one.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, excuse me, the Lake Committee submitted a number of changes this year. Most of them are superficial, though a few are noteworthy. So I'm going to go through all of them to make sure we get them in the record. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, if there's dialogue on one or more, I think we're prepared to listen to it. For the board that has copies of what I'm looking at, page 8, paragraph 7, it's just superficial wording to the 16 and older rule that already exists, but I'll read the paragraph. Persons the age of 16 and older or 15, if he/she passes the Indiana boating safety course, may operate a power craft with a horsepower rating in excess of 10 horsepower. They must also pass, and this is an addition to the original language, they must also pass the HLPOA watercraft operating permit exam. The Indiana boating safety course can be found at, and we have their link. The next is also a superficial change, page 9, paragraph 2. The existing rule for all powercraft towing a skier shall return to the down skier. We added the following: by first displaying the orange flag prominently so it is visible to the other powercraft operators. And then we kept the rest of that paragraph as it existed. Also in page 9, we've added a rule number 8, and this is the new one discussed before the meeting. Ballast boost is only allowed in surfing/main body area. Ballast must be turned off or drained before leaving the surfing main body area. The ballast should not be turned on, filled prior to entering the surfing main body area. The next change is also superficial on page 11. When a skier or tuber or wakeboarder falls into the water, we added the language to the orange flag must be displayed quickly and prominently so it is visible to other powercraft operators. The next change, also superficial, on page 17, regarding trailer stickers when registered. The sticker must be placed on the left side or port or driver's side of the trailer tongue. The next one is an important change. It basically removed watercraft passes. The new rule reads this, item 13. daily watercraft passes are not available or authorized except for special circumstances as determined by the POA manager and must be requested during normal POA office hours. Page 21, a minor change with important impact. We had a rule that animal hunting or trapping is not allowed at Heritage Lake. We qualified that. We said animal hunting or trapping for sport will not be allowed on Heritage Lake. On page 22, superficial change to reporting property damage accidents, we added that a requirement for calling an SPO or appropriate authority to our POA phone number. And last on the list of changes is a new rule listed under a new category, general rules. The Heritage Lake, I'm going to read this in its entirety, it's long. The Heritage Lake Property Owners Association, the association, prohibits any owner, their family members, and their guests from erecting, towing, maintaining, displaying, or flying on Heritage Lake, any association common area, and/or any lot or structure within the association, any painting, emblem, vehicle, or vessel wrap, sign, flag, banner, or display, which includes any of the following materials. A, any lewd, profane, obscene, or vulgar language, material, photographs, or depictions. B, any human nudity, including partial or complete genitalia. C, any racial, ethnic, or religious slurs. And/or D, any depictions or descriptions of sexual conduct.
Tell the attorney was that.
Yeah. So that's the totality of all the changes the Lake Committee proposed. So at this time, I would make a motion that we waive a second vote and accept the rules as submitted.
Okay, before we have a second?
Second.
Okay, before we vote, let me just say that my discussion on this is the rule concerning the ballast and the surfing. It pertains in this rule about surfing. I would suggest at this point that, I don't know, what do you think? You're on the Lake Committee. Do we,
The intent was not to hurt anyone, particularly any group like wake surfers. But I think many of the rules we have exist not because we have a few good people, but because we have a lot that ignore the rules or don't care about other people's property and safety and things like that. So I can make an argument either way to allow for wake surfing in the north end or wakeboarding, I'm sorry. But I can make an argument against it too. So I don't know where to draw the line on something like that. That's why it was submitted, the way it was submitted.
Could I hear your concern again? I just caught the tail end of that, and I'm a rookie at this, so if you could share again kind of what your concern is with the rule, and I can understand it better.
Well, we utilize the north end of the lake due to it's smooth. Like somebody that skis, they want smooth water. Same thing with wakeboarding. We want smooth water too. So when the main part of the lake is choppy, it's not any fun for wakeboarding. It needs to be smoother to be safe. I mean, you need to be able to get set up, prepared to jump the wake. We can't do that very well out in the main channel. So if we can't utilize the north end of the lake, or, I don't even go on the other part by the, come through here. Generally, we go to the north end, and because it's a nice long stretch and it's smooth. But if you take that away from us, wakeboarders, then the only time we're gonna have is,
So you're saying you have to have the ballast full to do that?
I don't necessarily have to have the ballast full, but you're saying we can't use ballast. So say we have we have people in the boat, and there's 2 people on one side and 1 on the other. I need to be able to weigh the boat so it's level, and be
I
able
guess-
to control the boat so my wake,
Sure.
it's crisp on
Yeah.
both sides. If it's washed out on one side or the other,
Sure.
then you can only basically utilize one side of the wake.
And you're obviously, I mean, I don't have ballast in my boat, and we still wake surf, but we're not like super wakeboard, I'm sorry, wakeboard. I definitely don't wake surf. There's no wake surfing happening. So we do wakeboard without ballast. I don't
I'm not
know.
saying you can't wakeboard without ballast, you
Yeah.
can. But the wake, you can create a nicer, crisper
Sure.
wake with the ballast, with control of the ballast.
I've also been out kayaking on the north end, because definitely can't kayak in the main body, like you can't, it's just not possible. And been completely overwhelmed by boats with ballast that are, I mean, it's very dangerous for my children to be out there sometimes on kayaks with that amount of wake that comes off those boats too. So, I struggle.
Go for it.
Okay, so Brock and I talked at length about this prior to the meeting, at 33 odd minutes on the phone. And I believe that what I was trying to get at, and you were at the Lake Committee meeting and I wasn't, that the spirit of the rule, and I will say the spirit of the rule, is so people don't drive around and pull a tube with their ballast full. They're not driving around the lake, just driving around with their ballast full, if I understand that correctly, in order to limit the size of the waves in the north and east end of the lake. It is not, if you put a quarter of a sack in there to level your boat off, it's instead of putting 3,000 pounds of water in your boat when it's 5 feet deep. And everybody knows, when it's 5 feet deep, you can put 1,000 pounds or you can put 3,000 pounds in there, and it's not gonna make a darn bit of difference on how big that wave is. Because if you don't have enough place to push the water down, it's not gonna make the wave any bigger. That's why you can't surf in the north end, because the water's too shallow. So the spirit of the rule is, we're trying to limit people filling up their boat, going out and surfing, and then, we're gonna take a quick lap and hammering around in the back end with a full tank of water. Or be draining it while they're driving along back to their house, and then they pull into a cove, throwing huge waves out. I don't think the intent is, as a very avid slalom skier, I'm 100% with you. I would love it if we didn't have big waves out there for the same reason, but we all have to share this 320 acres. So my personal, AJ's opinion is, I think the rule is to limit the stupidity, and it gives the teeth to the security officers if they see somebody just driving around back there, to be able to stop them and say, hey, why's your ballast full? You're not supposed to be doing this. Versus, you're gonna take what? A couple passes up and back and you'll be long gone at 20-something miles an hour.
Right.
That, I still believe, is what the Lake Committee would be trying to put in place with this, because that's what we've been trying to do the last 3 years, is give the security officers some teeth to be like, hey, you can't do this, stop it. So, if we don't approve it, that's fine, but I also agree with Rick. It's very easy to go both directions. You can go the, let's not swamp the kayakers, or let's fill up our ballast and we can do whatever we want.
Well,
So,
Can I talk again?
Yeah.
You hit it right on, it's the speed. If you're doing 10 mile an hour versus 20, the wake is gonna be 3 times as tall.
Right.
So if you say, if you're pulling a wakeboarder through the North Cove, then you can use ballast. If you're just cruising through the North Cove, totally makes sense, because you're basically throwing a surfing wake through that cove, if you're only doing 10 mile an hour and you have ballast, whether you're pulling a surfer or not. So if you have a rider back there and you're going at speed, 16 to 20 mile an hour, some guys run 22, your wake is a quarter of the size, or small. I don't even know how to compare it from a surfing wake. A surfing wake is huge, But if you're, because when you're moving at 20 mile an hour, your weight's way less.
I've seen several ballast boats last year that were out surfing and then went to a cove to park probably. And once they hit idle, I mean, their waves are huge inside their coves, and that's unsafe, especially when kids tie up there to swim, and
I
so.
think that's where the rule is, I think that's where the spirit of the rule is if you're surfing out in the main body and you've got a full size of water in that ballast, before you go into a cove, or before you go into the North Cove, or before you go into the East Cove, before you go into the idle coves, you need to remove that water. And that's where, I think that's where the spirit is. I also believe, and you guys are gonna listen to this, so I wanna be corrected if I'm not accurate, but I also believe, because we don't mention wakeboarding in this rule, that I find it hard pressed for security to follow you down the North Cove with your wakeboarding and give you any problem with a half-full ballast or whatever you need in your boat to demand the kind of wake that you need for that wakeboarder. That's my feeling about it. And I think if that becomes a problem next year, this rule does not pertain to you, in my opinion, reading the rule. So if that becomes a problem next year, then I think the Lake Committee needs to address that beyond the ballast rule that they've already come up with. Does that make sense to you?
So as long as we can utilize the North Cove
Mhm.
wakeboarding, that's all I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
I can totally understand you shouldn't surf and you shouldn't go slow, full ballast. It makes total sense. I
Okay.
just want to make sure I can utilize.
There's nothing in the
lake,
rules that says you cannot wakeboard in the North Cove.
But it says I can't use ballast. That's my hang up, is I need to be able to use ballast of some sort.
Okay?
You know, and I would think if you had discussion with security before the season started and just emphasize the spirit of this instead of trying to hold it to the nth degree, I think everybody would just get along fine.
Look and see who's throwing off a huge weight.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, I'm not a tuber, I'm not a surfer, I'm not a Scooby-Doo, whatever you wanna call it. So I'm not 100% positive that I could follow behind a boat and point out and say, their ballast is full or half full.
I could.
Because there's, but, well, I mean, you know, there's people that, show me a raise of hands that know exactly what they're talking about. Okay, so there's two. So I'm with everybody else, the majority, that don't totally understand this. So if I don't understand it, I don't even know how you get your ballast full. Do you fill it from the lake? Do you fill it from your garden hose? That's how naive I am about it. So how can I enforce something or educate the security guys if I don't understand it? I mean, this is really kind of diving in on people's boating, and, you know, last thing I want is get a call that some kids got swamped and head smacked against a pole on a dock somewhere, so.
For practical purposes, up to this point, we've had a lot of discussions about these rules, as I've stated to you before. We've been going, they've been at every meeting for the last 3 months. For practical purposes, there's nothing in here that says anything about ballast and wakeboarding. I can tell you, as a matter of record, that if you're going down the North Cove next year with your wakeboarder, and someone stops you and asks you if your ballast has got water in it, and you tell them it does, you're not gonna get a ticket. That's just a fact. It's not gonna happen. This rule is pertaining to surfing, okay? This rule is to keep anybody coming down to the North Cove with a surfer and a full ballast. Now, if we need to emphasize that the following year, we'll emphasize it. We'll change it. Right now, we're getting ready to print the rule book. And as Ken just, illustrated, there's 2 of you in the room or 3 of you in the room that know what's going on. There's only 30 of us in the room. And if we brought this to the entire lake population, we'd probably get maybe a dozen. I don't think, I'm glad you brought it up, and I understand why you brought it up, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal. If it becomes that big of a deal, then you guys can hang the president next year.
We can also make a change if we have to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is not like a constitutional amendment here. I mean, we can make a change if it's like, all of a sudden by July, the whole world is in upheaval.
And we don't want to ruin your fun. Like I said, we do wakeboarding on the north end for the same reason. I just don't have ballast. So
Right.
I get
And
it.
it depends on how you weigh your boat. The more people you have in the boat.
We just shift people around
Right.
instead,
Do we want-
right?
Same thing we
Do
do
we want
too.
to add to the end of this?
Yeah.
That it does not pertain
It's
to
not too
wakeboarding?
late. It's not too late.
Just add that
So we can add
sentence.
that as,
You all right?
sure.
You all right with that?
Yeah.
Does not pertain to wakeboarding?
So we can add it as an amendment to our motion.
How's that?
And then if it works for the spirit of the language this year, great. If not, we'll tweak it next year.
I do have some heartburn with that. Because
Okay.
part of the rule, as it was stated, the intent was to make sure the ballasts are filled and emptied before you go into these coves. So, how you do that, I'm not sure.
I understand that heartburn.
I mean, at this point, all I can instruct them to do is, if they see a boat that's obviously knocking off a big wake, you're just gonna have to stop them and ask them. I mean, you
Now, the
hope
other-
they're being honest.
No, just tell them to hit their drain button, hit their drain button and
First of
start
all-
shooting water out.
Okay.
First of all, it's a state law, and it's also a rule out here that you are responsible for your wake. You're responsible if your wake tips over a kayak. You're responsible if your wake disrupts somebody on the shore. You are. That's the law. So, if you want to get picky about it, so. But I think for our purposes tonight, is that okay with the board, or do you want to? Do you have a problem voting for this right now? No. Okay. Anybody else?
I got it, but it's a different issue.
It's a not, well,
It has to do with the lake rules.
that doesn't, no. We've taken this exception because he brought it up before the meeting, but the way you know how these meetings work. We're gonna vote on these lake rules. If you wanna change the lake rules, you can bring it up in open forum and we can figure that out.
I just wanted him to clarify what he was talking about.
Who?
We have a right to at least understand what you're voting on.
Well, I can tell you right now that what I've written down as an addendum to that rule number 8, I have, this rule does not prohibit wakeboarding with ballast in the North
Yeah, that's
Fork.
not what I'm talking about. I was talking about your very last statement on your lake rules. It sounded to me like you were applying them to lots and other places other than the lake. Which, if it does,
Are you talking about the rule about,
it's nudity.
yeah,
Pictures of nudity.
that's gonna be a general rule for the entire community.
Yeah, that shouldn't be in the lake rules though.
No.
That should be put,
It's in general rules, it says that.
It's under general rules.
it's not in part of the lake rules.
No.
Oh, okay. I just wondered about that.
And just so everyone knows, we brought this up in the last meeting, we brought it up in the ops meeting. The rule if anybody needs to have the rule read again, we can read it again. But the rule is to prohibit anybody in the neighborhood, it's a private community, putting out signs or flags or anything visible, whether it's in your yard, on the street, at the lake, behind your boat, it's prohibited. And don't give me the amendment thing, because it has nothing to do with the government, it has to do with this community. Okay?
Do we need to end the motion?
Yeah, I would just,
You wanna just read your,
yeah, let me read the rule again.
One.
Ballast boost is only allowed in surfing main body area. Ballast must be turned off, drained before leaving the surfing main body area. The ballast should not be turned on, filled prior to entering the surfing main body area, and this rule does not prohibit wakeboarding with ballast in the North Fork. So with that revision to that rule, I move that we waive the second vote and adopt the rules as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
One down.
Old business B, campground rules. Ken Roselle.
All right, mine's not gonna be as in-depth. These minor changes was ran by the campground chair, Rick Stevens. We got his blessing on it. Page 1, 2, and 3 that is highlighted in red, you will see has got an asterisk beside it, and that is only for time and date sensitive information that we want to point out. Down at the bottom of page 3, that was added in red, all golf carts, ATVs, mopeds, snowmobiles, or any other motorized vehicle must be insured with liability insurance to operate on any common property. Owner is responsible for any accidents. That was put in there to protect the POA. And on the last page, number 7, the 7A is what was added. The campground committee reserves the right to revoke the camping privileges of anyone who, in the committee's determination, is not utilizing the campground as it is intended to be used for. That's basically designed for people not camping, leaving their campers there, never coming out once for the season, that kind of thing, using it for storage. So that's why that was put in there. So this is also recommended as a one-time vote, so we can get the new campground rules printed also.
I move that we approve the campground rules as stated with one vote.
Second.
All those in favor? All right.
Told you it'd be easy.
Good job.
Good job, Ken.
New business, December 26th ops meeting.
Obviously, we're having it.
I will,
AJ will be here.
I'll be here by myself.
you're gonna be here?
I'm just gonna be here. I'll just be here in case anybody needs to see me.
All right, for obvious reasons, I move that we eliminate the December ops meeting.
Via email.
I move that we eliminate the December ops meeting.
Well, you
And
can't do
if
that,
there's
Mr.
any-
President, but I'll make that.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I move we cancel the December 26th ops meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? If there's any necessary communication, we know how to deal with it. We can deal with it with emails or anything like that. The office is closed, so I think everyone here is big boy enough and big girl enough to be able to email any of us if we have any problems. New business B, 14 Jefferson Valley variance. I believe we have participation from the audience on this. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm Linda Barger, Barry Barger, my husband, of 14 Jefferson Valley. And first I want to tell the board, I'm sorry. I apologize because I installed a roof over my dock without planning permission. I know better, lived here for 34 years, and I take full responsibility for being in the wrong. I'd like to respectfully request a variance for the dock roof over my dock for humanitarian grounds. My husband and my son both are disabled veterans. Both of them have 80% service-connected disabilities. This roof will provide shade from the afternoon sun. It is not impinging on anyone, on my neighbors. I live like 40 feet above the water. They also are about 40 feet above the water, and I think they've enclosed pictures. I got the idea for this roof from another that's just like it. It's identical to it. It's just right, very close here to the clubhouse. You guys have any questions or?
GB 63.
Do you know where this is? Is everybody aware?
I can show you on the map.
They're right on the right hand, on your side.
We're right here. Okay, and I think there should be a satellite picture where you can see like, the next two docks over, they're not even in the same zip code. They're about 100 feet on either direction.
Do people reside on those lots?
Permission? That's the.
Yes. Well, one's a weekender house and the other one, they live full-time. They both like the dock, so,
Their houses are way up in the woods.
yeah.
You drive down sometimes.
As a matter of fact, I could show you pictures they just took.
North Grove Road.
Everybody's got those pictures.
We've got the pictures.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just would make sense to unbolt it and slide it over, and that would be less.
some of the points I would like to bring up about this that are pertinent. I'm not trying to persuade the board in how they want to vote on this variance. Know why the rule is in effect. It's obvious the rule is in effect so that we don't have people building roofs over docks. Now, and we can sit here and first of all, if there are roofs over docks on this lake, it has no bearing on what we're going to do tonight. There's roofs on docks on this lake for the three reasons that I know of. One of them is the A&E committee boo-booed, and they approved it. They should have never approved it. Second is somebody decided to tell us that they're going to do it anyway. And we took it upon ourselves as a board and a management of this lake not to hire an attorney for $20,000 to get them to remove that roof. The third reason is somewhere along the line we missed it, and it's been there for a long, long time. None of those rules affect what we do here tonight, okay? There are sheds in our neighborhood. But since Ken's been a manager out here, there has not been a shed put up. Some of these rules are broken. In this neighborhood, they are, and we understand that. A variance is given for the purposes of an explanation that you've provided us, and there's more to the explanation than she has told us, and it's written down here on the variance. So it's up to the board. We have, in just this year alone, disapproved plans to put a roof over docks twice. And one of those roofs was put on anyway, and it's not there any longer. It's been removed. So I want to make that clear to anybody in the audience and to anybody that's watching this meeting. Variances are given because normally the intent of a rule is not applicable in a specific case. Therefore, the A&E committee turned you down, and now you are bringing this to the board, and we can either approve the variance or not approve the variance according to how we feel it's going to affect everybody else in the lake. Does anybody need, if anybody at the board needs more time to look at this particular property? I know the property very well. Is there any more discussion?
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Was this structure presented to the A&E?
No.
And it was not presented
No,
to the
and I
A&E?
apologize, that is on me. It was brought in, it was installed when I was on a long business trip, and I apologize, it's on me. Barry had nothing to do with this, we were going to surprise him with it, and I should have brought it in, and I apologize. And I'm very sorry, because I should know better, I've lived here this long, you know, and this is on me.
The reason I asked was I think there's two issues here. I think there's one, that we put a fines together for people that did just that.
Yeah.
That you billed without submitting. And then the second one is then ask for the board for the variance. That's my 2 cents. I mean, to give you a variance, if the board chooses to do that, that almost negates building something without a permit.
Is there something in the rules for a certain amount of dock that can be covered? Because like if you have a double decker, technically the 4-foot gangway between the two boat slips is covered. So is there a certain amount that could be covered in the rules? Like, is there a portion of the dock, like if they moved it over? And I'm just asking because I don't know the A&E rules backwards and forwards like you guys do. But
It just says.
The only,
It doesn't have any.
if you have 2 boat slips and you have 1 roof, the dock in the middle is gonna be covered.
correct.
Okay, that's totally within the rules. What is not within the rules is a dock covered with a roof. Boat slips covered with a roof are in the rules. So consequently, if you have 2 boat slips, like, if they had a boat slip instead of their dock,
I mean, they do have a boat slip.
but if that other dock had a boat slip in it, it'd be fine, and there'd be a dock in the middle of it, a walkway in the middle of it.
Right, what I was asking was if this was slid over to the other side of that dock, this space, I mean, it wouldn't get there, but it would be much closer.
Yeah, they
Wouldn't
can't
it?
do that. It's not enough room, no.
So they can't move, they can't unbolt it and slide it over next to that jet ski and then re-bolt it down. And that would move it over what, probably like 4 or 5 feet? And that would suck up some of that space. I mean, I'm just trying to think of a creative solution other than just say yes or
Yeah,
no.
we could go over a few feet, but then it would give us less shade area, yes.
I'm trying to find a way where we don't have to say take it down,
Yes, and I appreciate.
if possible. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the letter of the law is on that. Is it on that first page?
It just says, request was denied for docks cannot be removed. I just, in the spirit of what we have approved and denied this year, I don't see how we can approve it. I hate that, I hate
I'm just
it.
saying, we got a 10-foot wide boat slip and about 10 feet of adjacent dock. But like if you had a boat slip, like my boat slip at my dock, my roof line goes out to the
If you're trying to
edge.
figure out a way where this doesn't need a variance, there's no way. It needs a variance. It's been suggested that we table this. Do we need more discussion about this? If we vote against the variance, it's done. So,
Yeah, I mean, I might wanna go, I would like to go down there and look at it in person.
okay.
If that's okay with you guys to go
Please
down
do.
there and
Oh,
see it in real life
Yeah.
versus just a picture. I would vote to, I would second a tabling if there's a motion on tabling.
That's a
Unless
good
we
idea.
have to
I'd
make
like
a
to do that.
decision this month.
Yeah, check
Please
that out.
do.
Okay.
Do we have to make a decision right away or is there,
If we
there's no
table it,
clock
table
on
it.
it?
Has there been a fine assessed?
No. But that's a good point. I don't know why there hasn't been. We're discussing a variance tonight. It was never a, that's part of the A&E committee. I mean, that should have been done. I don't know why it wasn't
Yeah,
done.
I didn't know if we needed to have a decision before a fine extended.
I move we table this variance decision till the next board meeting to give us, or people like me,
Time to mull it over.
Second?
Second.
It's tabled. That's called, in government, that's called kicking the can. No, I think at this point, it's only fair that we get some more discussion on this. I don't want to get you all psyched up about this, because it's, you know, this has been a sticking point out here, especially for the fact that there's other ones out here that have been approved. And,
The different architectures out here, though, this does make it a little difficult to interpret what the right proper roof should be. Every dock down here has a different roof and different roof line.
that's why we have an A&E committee, and that's why it should have been submitted to the A&E committee.
I think first and foremost, that's what needs to be done, is we have to have something in the file. It's gotta go through the A&E committee, whether it gets approved or denied.
It was denied. It was denied.
Only because it's a variance.
Yeah, it was denied.
After the fact.
After the fact.
After the fact, okay.
Yeah. All right, we'll deal with that. And now we come to our favorite time of the meeting, the open forum. For those of you who have never been here during open forum, we'd like you to stand, tell us your lot number and your name, and bring your concerns to us.
Respectfully.
What are your celebrations?
You gave, Diane Culver, 309 Gettysburg. You gave us an estimate quite a while ago of how many people you think actually are viewing via the thing. I was just wondering if you still have an idea of how many people are actually viewing.
Oh, how many people are viewing the POA meetings?
Yes, these, like, that
You know, I don't have those numbers, I haven't looked, but I will. Okay.
Because it's just, you know.
Be nice to know.
I think YouTube, that's where we park those videos.
Yeah.
I think they will give us the numbers, I just haven't looked.
Oh, because I think at one time you said it was maybe as much as 200 some people.
And I think it wildly varies, week to week, month to month, you know?
Well, I was just interested because it seems to be effective, you know, your equipment. And to everybody out there, Merry Christmas and Happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
259 Jefferson Valley. Rick, all of you, this is the first I heard about why I can fly on my property and flag and what I can't. Who's gonna, could you read that again like you said you asked?
Yeah, they basically, you know, when the Lake Committee discussed that new rule, we hesitated because we were worried about First Amendment rights, okay? We hesitated telling anybody what we, as a Lake Committee, thinks is offensive or not.
Right.
And so we kicked that can down the road to let the POA discuss, do we need the rule? Do we want the rule? Can we enforce the rule? And they did all that and sent it to the attorney because they were concerned about First Amendment rights. And basically, I can paraphrase, I can't quote the attorney, basically the opinion was, you know, we can restrict lewd, lascivious, bad behavior with signage and flags and boat wraps and whatever else people might dream up to express their opinions without violating First Amendment, because the First Amendment applies to government regulation on the general public, not to our right to have a safe and wholesome community. Does that help?
Well, I was trying to figure out, so the committee's gonna say what's vulgar and what ain't. I understand the rule, and my grandkids are out here, and I wouldn't want somebody flying an AK-112 on the flag. I understand 100%. But I was saying, listen, and I'm just gonna throw it out there, so someone throws up a Confederate state flag.
Personally, I don't have a problem with that.
That's
You know,
what I'm asking, okay, all right.
you know, if you put up a Trump flag and you put up a Biden flag, I don't have any problem.
All right, so no political, all right.
Yeah, it doesn't, the word political isn't anywhere in this
Well,
language.
I
so.
understand, but my neighbor might find my Trump or Biden flag is harassing.
That's too bad.
That's too bad.
Okay, all right, that's what.
Yeah.
Too bad.
But
But if you say F Trump or F Biden, we're gonna tell you to take it down.
Well, what if you have, and I understand.
I meant the word.
The word, okay,
Yeah.
but you got FJB and some
Yeah.
say that means forget Joe Biden, I mean, which I
That's
don't
right.
put up,
Yeah.
I don't care about it, but you know, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Well,
I don't think you'll have any problem with, when the authorities of the lake call you to tell you to take something down with our judgment. And if you do, then you do, I guess. This rule is for things that have gone on out here, and we've all seen it. I mean, we've all seen it. And it's okay if you do it inside your garage, and it's okay if you do it inside your house. But for little kids to walk by and see, you know, some of the flags and some of the posters and some of the things that go on out here, it's not right. I'm not gonna be the one to approve it. And I can tell you, I was very adamant about this rule. It was one of the things that I wanted to see happen. And it doesn't really hurt anybody to be polite.
No, and I understand, I just wonder who's going, you know, okay, how many flags we're getting into and posters and all that. And I understand I don't want my grandkids to come by with somebody flying a nude flag or something.
Right.
I understand that.
That's what it's all about.
I would assure you, if you got a letter, it would be very well thought out. And if you got a letter, you're probably in violation.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, no political, it didn't say anything about political, so you wanna fly a Confederate flag, you ain't gonna hear nothing from me.
Right.
And if you fly a Trump, Biden flag, you're still not gonna hear. But, you know, you start throwing out nasty stuff, let's call it what it is, then offensive, then you'll get a letter to take it down. If you don't take it down, your next letter will come from the attorney. So, you know,
We had a lot of discussion about this. I mean, and not only the board, we had a discussion through other people in the community. And then, once we thought about this, originally, we were gonna put it for the lake, because a lot of the unfavorable flags were on boats.
Yes.
And so, we kind of addressed it that way, but the attorney was the first one to say, do it for the entire community, not just the boats. Don't make a rule for the lake, make a rule for the entire community. So, that's where it came from.
Because that person that was gonna fly it on his boat will then fly it in his yard.
well, of course you would.
Well, park the boat in his yard.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, I'm kinda getting, like I said, kinda getting in a.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Getting in the gray area, you know, like, okay,
Yeah.
HOA is over, you know, HOA property, stuff like that, now you're coming on private land, which I understand, I wouldn't want someone flying certain things on private land either, you know.
This,
And like I said, I understand that, but there's
Richard,
what.
do you wanna just read the rule? So you said you wanted to see it again.
Well, yeah, I thought we were gonna read it again, that's fine.
Well, if anybody else wants me to read it, I
Just-
would. but you can-
just for clarification, this is gonna be in the general rules that everybody that buys property out here is gonna receive.
Yeah.
Just like you do when you buy a house out here, you have to abide by all the rules that are in the general rule book, and this is gonna be in there. So if you don't wanna abide by this, don't buy the house.
Well, I understand and I understand the part, say, some of us are already here, and then the rules get changed. And
That's correct. That happens also.
Yeah. So I just like, and I understand, I wouldn't want to do it. I got
Good.
grandkids,
I'm glad you
everybody.
understand.
I was like, kind of hitting on private property, they just got to hit on private property, you know,
Yeah.
kind of hitting on it. And I like to put in my 2 cents, since I'm standing here right now. You got two people that gave for this country, they're both disabled, and there's nothing wrong sometimes giving a variance.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quickly, just to answer your question about the number of views, I pulled up the YouTube account. Winter months tend to be slower as far as people watching, probably because there's less business happening. So we're around 80 views in the winter, around 200 in the summer, so.
Nice job.
Absolutely.
A woman of the people.
Tom Novak, 25 Mill Springs. I'd just like to make an announcement for the American Red Cross. I think this is a wonderful way for everyone to start out their new year. We will be having a Red Cross blood drive at the Heritage Lake Clubhouse on January 12th between the hours of 2 and 7 p.m. And anyone could sign up. There is an online registration, and that registration is www, all one word, redcross.org. Or if you're unfamiliar with computers, you can call Marianne Novak. She'll be glad to sign you up at 765-386-2077. That's 765-386-2077. And I think everybody would be proud to start the new year by saving a life, by giving blood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Three lives.
3 lives.
Hey, Tom,
Thank you.
if Mary Ann hadn't received the email, I responded back to her that it'll be on the signs in the morning.
Very good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ben Fuchs, 77 Gettysburg. My wife and I started a business recently. We were at the Holiday Bazaar to kick it off. We had a pretty good turnout at the bazaar, talked to a lot of people. And we came tonight in case, by seeing our ad in the highlights, if anybody had any questions, we wanted to be here today to answer those questions. And the company that we represent is very transparent. And anything you want to know about us, we're happy to answer. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer or get an answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes?
Curtis Talbot, 309 Gettysburg. Concerning the covering over the docks. Maybe, Ben, you were on the A&E committee a long time. Do you know why exactly they put that rule in there?
Why to be what?
Why that covering over the docks, when they can have coverings over the boat lifts, why can't you have a covering over your dock? I never did
It's always
understand
been
that.
in the rules that you can't have a covered dock, as far back as.
Wherever?
Yeah.
But you don't really know why?
I think the original intent was to keep a clear view so that people would be able to see the water.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I was just wondering about that, because that's one of the things you might want to keep in consideration when you consider a variance for those people. Because they already told you, there's no way that covering is going to bother anybody's view. And that's a very important fact, because that's, I'm sure, the reason why they put the covering in the first place, for not having covers over the docks.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'll take a motion, and there is an executive meeting after this. Take a motion?
He's asking you.
Oh, I made the motion.
There you go.
There you go. Move we adjourn.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Anybody that's not in favor, stay here. Have a short executive meeting.
Ooh, man.
Depends on how short.